Welcome to Sportsnut Central. We're nuts about sports. All right, well, Sportsnut Central, here we go. Another episode coming your way. We've got a very special guest, Niagara College graduate of the Broadcasting for Radio, Television, Film program, doing some amazing things right now. We got Amy Audibert here. So, Amy, go ahead and say hello.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
So nice. What a curveball to start.
No, yeah, hit me with the tough stuff off the top. It's just really nice to chat sport like that are actually happening right now. Finally again, right? So thanks for chatting with me.
Well, yeah, thanks for joining us. And speaking of that, the Canadian Elite Basketball League, Amy, is the first league to return to play. You got to tell us about that, what that whole experience was like being the courtside reporter for all 26 games. Yeah,
so it's all a blur. There's your short answer. I can't tell you anything and I remember nothing. I'm just kidding. It was really cool. So first of all, like I keep saying it's kind of like I take some time to reflect after. I've never had a project like this, but you know, when you have a season or a 26 game and 16-day project and everything, I just keep going back to it. It's just I'm so proud of the league, of Mike Morreale and his team to get this going, and it's over. That's the first thing I said to him after I looked at him. I said, it happened, you know, because first of all, to get a live sport, a live league playing in Canada without an NBA budget bubble, you know, it took a lot of people and a lot of effort, and it took discipline. Even the guys, right? They had to follow rules. We all did. I had to get tested. Like we all had to follow rules. But anyways, it was amazing. There's your short answer. Another one. Just having 2 feet in a basketball gym is something that I never take for granted, but during a global pandemic, you really don't take that for granted. And I loved it. You know, it was a little bit of a shift for me because I have been working and sitting in a color analyst chair for a year. So I shifted back to the sideline, but I was so excited to do it for this league because there were so many good stories. And I keep saying the bummer for me was that probably like 60 to 70%, more than 70% of my stories didn't make air because there's just not enough time to get everything in. But I mean, some of the stories that came out of this league, the athletes, the coaches, they truly were incredible. And I hope I'm back next year to do it.
Amy, talk about the CEBL's decision to turn to the ELAM ending rather than, of course, a normal traditional time buzzer, no buzzer beater. However, there's a hero in every game, and that was the way they wanted it. Your thoughts on how it turned out for the tournament?
Well, first of all, the ones that ended it on free throws weren't the best, which is kind of funny because that's how the championship ended. But it was Xavier Moon who was at the free throw line, and he scored 31 to be the highest scoring game. So it kind of was poetic justice at the end. I loved it. Speaking to the coaches at first, to be honest, they weren't as they were excited about it, but it's totally new, right? And especially with some of the coaches who haven't been head coaches for a long time. But, you know, Kyle Julius brought up a great point. He's the head coach of the Fraser Valley team. And he said, these guys have been playing Elam since they were like 2 years old, right? In the gyms, best to 7, best to 9, best to 11. And so some of them were really good. The ones that were really good were so exciting. The ones that weren't, just because it was maybe a little sticky, the whistle started getting blown a little, I don't want to say too much, but it felt like too much. But I loved it. And I think as the summer series progressed, you saw them get better and better. But even if you're going in up 15, it usually the team that was trailing actually won that final frame. And so I hope they continue it. I know that there's a lot of people that are pushing for the NBA to do it. The other thing that I think came into factor with the Elam was a lot of shots were missed. And we got to remember a lot of these guys haven't been training, right? They got a 1-week training camp. They've been training, but not like they're used to. Has the world been normal? So I think, you know, if you look at an Elam and an NBA, those shots are going in like all the time, right? So I'd be really excited to see it continue to thrive.
Do you think it? I don't want to say helps the game in any way, but does it actually add excitement for the players, fans, and coaches rather than a timeline?
100%, because when you're trailing and you take the clock out of the equation of a game, anything's possible. All you have to do is get a stop. That's the first
True.
thing, right? And then score, and you don't worry about the clock. I think it's so exciting. Again, like I think for the first time I tried to ask every single guy if they've ever played Elam, which was a little tough to do, but I literally think I found like 3 or 4 that actually did. And the only place they would have played it was TBT, of course, professionally on a basketball court. So I think the more that they do it, the more you kind of catch on to the strategies. But certainly when you take the clock off the table as a fan, you don't see that stalling. You don't see the foul to get to the free throw line. You see just guys trying to get stops and score.
I heard the number 31 there, Amy, and I was able to pull up this vintage Reggie Miller jersey.
Okay.
Just for fun, because I have
like
such a
Reggie.
oversaturation. Yeah, I have such an oversaturation of hockey stuff in my little man cave here. But I just thought I would show that to you. And
Thank you.
I was hoping to grab my old Air Jordan 11s, size 5, but couldn't locate those. But
That's okay.
anyways, over COVID-19, you were able to do some webinars with Dutch from Niagara College, of course, the lead BRTF instructor there, and really had some great time. Really, we all had a great time to listen to you and learn from you and sort of your schoolmates and what the grind of broadcasting is like. Would you be able to just talk about the grind of what you've been doing the last 10 years or so?
Yeah, that's it, right? Like it's crazy. I always say I thought I knew how tough it was going to be, and then I actually had no idea. I've loved every opportunity, but especially when you're working in Canada, we just don't have a whole lot of on-air opportunities. In our industry, the only way to get better is through reps. So that's why it's so challenging. And so, I mean, I don't know exactly where to start with that other than I've been fortunate because you got to be lucky too, right, to get the jobs. And so I'm lucky. I also, I'm not, I don't shy away from the fact, like I work my tail off. I'll continue to do that. I just haven't had things just fall in my lap. But I guess you also have to be patient to have to do other things. I've worked at the casino for a long time to support my broadcast career. So if I picked up a game somewhere random, I could go and I could stay there for the night, and you know what I mean? And I can buy an outfit and make sure I'm presentable. Like it's just part of our industry, right? So I don't think people realize for on air, unless you're a superstar, like if Vince Carter wants my job, Vince Carter's taking my job. I get it, right? But it's a skill. On-air presentation is a skill set. Calling a game is a skill set. You can't just walk in and even me, like I sit down and reflect every game. I could have done this better. I could have done this different. But there has to be a level of patience to understand that you're not just going to get your big job, and there's no like direct way. It literally is all over the place. And yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, broadcast of a game will change. Obviously, CBC tried to do a few things differently with the CEBL. The NHL is trying 100 things to broadcast their games differently. But as a reporter, as a color analyst, do you see a broadcast changing going forward once sports actually do return?
Yeah, I don't think there's too much of anything that's just going to go back to the way it is, right? We've all had to adapt and change the way that we function. And I think we're definitely going to see some things. I hope that we're not going to sacrifice too much quality for budgeting purposes, right? Because as it even with the CEBL with Media Pro, which was awesome, those cameras were robotic cameras. So the joke was they actually couldn't keep up with Xavier Moon sometimes, right? So we would lose him in a frame because the robots couldn't keep up with him. It was fantastic. It was so cool. It was phenomenal. And I'm proud to say that I was part of this groundbreaking broadcast. But you can't replace somebody, a lady or a man sitting on a court side holding a camera and catching those shots and catching that angle. So I think that we're all figuring out ways to adapt, and I'm sure things will change. But it's tough. It's tough calling a game without fans. I mean, obviously it's harder to play and harder to coach and harder to do a million other jobs without fans, but it's also tough to call a game. It's different. And so I hope that we can at least return back to some normalcy at some point.
Amy, talk about the Raptors 905 team and really the league that is bringing up these future NBA stars. I mean, not everybody really knows about the Raptors 905 league and how competitive it is, and that it's right of course there at Scotiabank Place. Just talk about that experience. You seem to be right about in your element when you're covering games there.
Thank you. So the NBA G League, I said I wasn't lucky before. Well, this is an example of me being lucky in terms of getting this job, because the 905, in my opinion, and of course I'm biased, but I think it's one of the, if not the best G League affiliates in the entire G League. And that's because if you are a loyal Raptors fan, you know that most of that team spent time with the 905. And so when I got the analyst job last year, it wasn't just oh cool. It was no. Like, this is, I need to respect this, and this is my every game's my Super Bowl, because yeah, like Paul Watson, if you watched that first, what was it, last week when he went off, like he was a 905 guy this year, you know, and they take the 905 so serious, not just with the players, but with the coaches, with the front office. They just promoted John Wiggins up to the Raptors. I'm hoping the broadcasters at some point would be awesome, but you know, it's such a cool, there's like the personal and my side of it. The industry is, for me, what my biggest learning tool was this: you just never know who's going to play until you show up. So I'm a prep nut. I prepare. I want to have all my angles covered. You never know what's going to happen in sports, right? This is why we show up and play the game. And a lot of times with the G League, I would show up and a guy I spent some good time getting to know in prep wasn't playing, or you show up and, oh, there's Stanley Johnson with the Raptors. Oh, he's playing today. And so it challenged me professionally that way. But the vibe in the NBA G League is the cool. I just love it, because I was just speaking to somebody last week about this, is that whether you are the players, the coaches, the officials, everyone that works in the G League, including the broadcasters, we show up and we feel so blessed and thankful to be where we are. But we also in our mind know we're like one step away, right, from the big leagues. And so there's this sense of proud of where you are, you know, ready to have a great night, but also like you get excited and happy when, you know, we see mostly the players. Obviously we see the guys. Siakam was a 905 guy. Freddie was a 90. Norm was, right? So there's like this sense of pride when we get to, or even some of the officials, right? We see them in the G League, and then maybe in a year or two they're doing NBA games, and we're proud and we're happy for each other that way. I absolutely loved it. And again, I hope I'm back next year. So whenever that is, which is a whole nother podcast, right?
It's almost like an open tryout for these players day in and day out, knowing they could get a call to come up at any point.
Okay, so the G League is, you have to respect those players so much. It's such a grind. They don't have the lavish NBA lifestyle, right? They're not staying and traveling in top class, and that's it. They also have this pressure of, if I don't play good, I could get released. If I don't play good, maybe I was going to get a call and I'm not going to. So where I thought the 905 have thrived, not just this past season, but where they have thrived since their existence pretty much, is they've been able to play this fine line with understanding that guys are all kind of wanting their own look, but then also playing as a team together. That's very hard to do, right? Because every possession could be your big shot, your big play, but you also have to buy into a system and show that, hey, you know, tonight we want Tyler Ennis to get how many touches. And so you have to appreciate that side of the league too, in terms of coaching, right? And then sometimes you get a call and say, hey, so-and-so's coming down. We want him to get 20 shots. So you take your game plan and throw it out the window. And that sometimes happens the morning or the afternoon of a game day. So it certainly is exciting because, like you said, everyone playing understands that it's their opportunity to get looks, but then you also have to show that you can play in a system and you can execute and you can be a good team player too. So it's just such a unique atmosphere. It's minor leagues, right? It's such a unique place. But I think with the 905, When guys come and play for the 905, they really do feel like they get legit looks, and they do, right? I mean, I've seen Masai and I've seen Nick Nurse at games. You look at the success stories, look at Chris Boucher, like they look at O'Shea Brissett this year. They get looks, they do get opportunities. So whether you're 1 through 12 on the 905, you certainly are motivated to show up and buy in because you never know.
Were you coaching when you were a student? I meant to ask that right away.
Was I coaching?
I knew it was close. I didn't remember though.
You know what? Was it? I
Well,
wasn't. No, I wasn't because.
Okay, you weren't. Okay.
No, because my some of my friends were playing because I remember doing like little like ENGs and stories and stuff on the women's team, and I must have been right after I graduated. So that's a thing. I like love this is. I have so much love for the Niagara region because a lot of my friends are coaches at Brock or at Niagara College, and they know that Amy needs to have 2 feet in the gym or she goes nuts. She's crazy. Mm-hmm. So I was really fortunate. I was an assistant at Brock with the women's team. I was an assistant at Niagara College with the women's, and last year, 2 years ago, with the men's. And it was just because my friends have allowed me to get in there and, you know, be a part of a team, but then also have the flexibility that when I have a game to call, I'm not there. But I wasn't coaching and studying. That you guys can probably second me on this. That BRTF program is amazing, but it's no joke.
100%.
I cried once. Like I was like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like it was of course a videography challenge or whatever, videography assignment. But that program's amazing. And that was another example of me being lucky. I was lucky that I'm from Niagara, and when I got home from college, I didn't know what to do with my life. So I gave it a try, and it was down the street. So it kind of all worked out for me.
You as a coach of Niagara, and you know Niagara talent, and you see all these kids that play collegiate level come in from all across the province, all across the world. How frustrating is it for you, though, when you see a kid who's got all this talent, you can coach him, you can try anything with him, but sometimes it doesn't work out or that kid throws it all away? How tough is that for you as a coach to see that?
Yeah, I mean, that's extremely frustrating, but I will tell you this. If we've learned nothing in the last probably 3 or 4 years with college coaching, and I mean, obviously we see it in the States on a bigger scale, but I would say also in Canada, we're seeing it more. Recruiting is the most important thing. I'd say recruiting is almost more important than wins and losses, because if you don't recruit players that are in line with your system or your beliefs or that can handle you as a coach, you're in trouble. You know, the way that, and so, yeah, like we've definitely, you get players that don't fit or they don't buy in. I think if, as a coach, if they're a good kid and they come from a good place, it's just not working out. It's a lot easier to still support them, right? And just find a fit. College basketball is not just show up and play. You know, you're a student athlete. And if you're in the right program, you're a student first, and you're challenged and you're held accountable. And that's a whole different ballgame.
You've done a lot of work with the WNBA down in Atlanta, working in Toronto. Like, how often are you going back and forth to there? Or just talk about that experience covering the NBA or the WNBA, sorry.
Yes, that was amazing. So I was actually signed up to start with the CEBL last summer, and I was really excited for that opportunity. And then like a couple days before the game, the season was starting, I got this really big opportunity in Atlanta to go cover the WNBA. So obviously they were okay with me leaving, and it happened really quick. Got my car moved down there, and all of a sudden I was covering the best women's basketball players in the world, and they really are. I love the W. Unfortunately, obviously, with a lot of the way the world feed and COVID and everything, I didn't go back down to Atlanta this summer, and that's okay. I'm still involved with the podcast, but I guess in terms of just getting to go different places, it's very rewarding, but some people don't like that, right? Some people, and that's like tough. To build this in this industry or this career, you have to be willing to go different places. But I was really fortunate that like Atlanta is not the worst place in the world, and I'm fortunate that I live close to Toronto. But I always say like some of my greatest memories so far were in Buffalo, the UB women's basketball team. And the men too, actually, for that matter, were really good for a while. So, you got to be willing to get up and go. And I'm fortunate to get the call.
you talked about recruiting, and you talked about how recruiting is huge for all across, collegiate basketball, even high school basketball in the States. You see a lot of these kids that come from everywhere. BRTF, of course, at Niagara is one of those programs that gives Niagara a huge advantage over some colleges with all the technology they have to make these promo videos. What is the OCAA missing that makes collegiate basketball better in Ontario?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I haven't watched a whole lot of OCAA stuff this past year.
Sure.
I would say this, especially with college athletes, the more you can story tell, who they are as people, who they are as student athletes. I think that's really important. I think sometimes we miss the mark on that. Because when you want fans to come up to a game, if they watched a video and they've seen, oh, so-and-so's in this program wants to do this for a living, maybe because of this reason, you have a little extra motivation to show up and support. And so I don't know if that's happening or not, but I think that's really important, especially at the collegiate level, because college athletes they're so much more accessible to young kids than a professional athlete, right? And it's win-win. College athletes, like, the more you can get out there and push your brand as a person, who you are, you can get fans, and it's just, I don't know. I think that's really important. I don't know if it's happening enough or not.
No, they tried. Like, I know, because when I was with Niagara, of course, announcing games, and we always talked about that same question: what makes the OCAA just a little bit stronger? And I know I was talking to Phil about it when he was coaching Niagara, and he said pretty much the exact same thing you just said.
Oh, good.
Because if we can illustrate who we actually have on the court and bring a little local talent, it would be amazing. And I know Niagara's tried to do that, but when you were there and you had, ups and downs with the men's teams, what was your favorite memory, just being on the sidelines as a coach for Niagara?
With the men's team, just with Phil. Phil's my good friend. And when he got the job, I was so excited. I think, I will say this, we practice at 6 a.m., I think Tuesday, Thursdays. So I love those early morning grinds, and the guys, they got in there and they went like super, super hard. So I enjoyed that. We had a fun year. We had Bubba and Mac. We had some good guys. So it's hard to say like just one specific memory, but I enjoyed sitting with Phil. And me and Phil are both very animated, loud talkers. So I think people thought we were fighting and screaming at each other a lot, but we were just game conversation, So yeah, it was interesting.
We're all, aspiring broadcasters in some regard. Are you just waiting for your moment to do your first NBA game? Like, what's just kind of in your dream, I don't know, vision board, whatever you want to call, I don't know what you do to dream, but what is it that, you haven't done yet that you're just like, I got to do that and fulfill this dream?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't shy away from anyone else. I'd love to call NBA games. Again, basketball is my love and passion, and that's the highest level in the world. But that being said, I think a lot of people look too far ahead and forget to just do what they're doing right now really good. And so I focus on the job I have, and I get to go and I get to call G-League games, which, again, these guys we're literally, 20 minutes up the road from the Raptors. And so I treat every game like it's the biggest game of my life. I have to, if I don't do really good at this job, the next one's never coming. And so it kind of enraged. I mean, I've worked with people that show up unprepared, and it gets under my skin because it's disrespectful to coaches, to players, to fans, to people that don't get these jobs, And so, yeah, I don't shy away from, of course, I want to work in the NBA, but I'm really, really lucky, fortunate, and humbled to be doing the jobs that I'm doing now.
Well, Amy, we can't thank you enough again for joining us on Sportsnut Central today. You're certainly an inspiration for myself, Spencer, Kevin, anybody who's looking to get into the broadcast industry. And we just would love to have you on again. And we could talk for hours with you, I'm sure, about your career, how it's going, and the journey that you're on. And in fact, I'll be starting a show this fall called The Journey on your TV, and would certainly love to have you on there as well.
Yeah, I would love to. Like I said, I'm happy. All I like to do is sit around and talk about sports and whatever else. So anytime.
Sportsnut Central. We're nuts about sports.